Hi, everybody. I'm here with Jennifer Duncan from BNSF, and she is a former First Bytes camper and also went to UT Computer Science. So welcome, Jennifer. Thank you for joining us today. Why don't you start off with giving everybody a little background about yourself, like where you're from and how you got into computer science?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be doing this with you today. So I grew up just a little bit outside of Dallas, and I was always interested in math and computer science and technology, and I wanted to be a programmer, and I actually wanted to help design video games. That just seemed really cool to me. So in high school, I actually went to a magnet school. It's a science and engineering magnet at Townview in Dallas, and it was geared specifically towards the sciences, engineering, math, and that's when I started taking my first computer science class was at that high school. As I progressed on, I knew that I wanted to do computer science at college, and I started looking around at different places. Where did I want to go? And I found out about the University of Texas and their Turing Scholars program, and that just sounded right up my alley. And so that is where I headed. Went to University of Texas, became a Turing Scholar, studied computer science, got my degree, and right out of college, I went to be a Java developer at Raytheon in Garland. So I've always stayed in Dallas, in Texas. I have always stayed in Texas. So I went from Dallas all the way to Austin, back to Dallas, and then a few years ago, my husband and I moved to Fort Worth, which is, the other side of Arlington. So my parents were very upset that we took their grandbabies all the way to the other side of Arlington when we moved to Fort Worth. So that's a little bit about haven't much left. I love Texas.
What was it about the University of Texas that you most liked, in computer science in particular?
Mm-hmm. So when I was trying to decide where I wanted to go to college, um, I had looked at a couple of places out of state, and my parents asked me to look at the costs. And you've taken your SATs, look at the schools you want to go to, who's going to give you what kind of scholarships, and then compare that to their overall tuition. So once I did all that research, I decided that I was not going to an out-of-state private school, that I was going to go to an in-state public school, and I started looking at University of Texas and the University of Texas at Dallas were the two that I really started looking at. University of Texas at Dallas has a very strong computer science program. University of Texas also had a very strong computer science program. I did tours at both campuses, and I just really fell in love with Austin. I went to a Texas-Mizzou football game with Vince Young as a junior, and it was an incredible experience. I met Dr. Calvin Lynn, who is the professor in charge of the Turing Scholars, and the Turing Scholars program is really what swung me between the University of Texas at Dallas and in Austin. Having that small, tight-knit community that we were going to go through this journey together, about 100 students, and we're all going to come in as freshmen together, and we're going to go through all of our honors classes together, and we're really just going to build that bond. Having professors that were really looking out for the Turing Scholars, it was a big selling point for why I was going to come study computer science at University of Texas at Austin.
So I really love that you did your path the way you did. I know you came to the camp, First Bytes, and we're actually presenting this to First Bytes and Code Longhorn. You went off into the world, and somehow you and I reconnected, and you've come back and started presenting during the summer camps for us, which is just like the most perfect thing in the world for us to have happen. When you got out of college, did you use the advising path to help find your job? How did you get into where you are now?
So as I started getting into my senior year and looking at graduation and then beyond that, I went to several of the college fairs that were there on campus, talked to several different companies, got business cards. I did interviews for different companies on campus. And honestly, I don't remember getting a card or getting an interview or getting anything with Raytheon. But somehow through all of that, they got a hold of my information. They emailed me, said, hey, we hear that you're getting close to graduating. You've got a computer science degree. Would you like a job? I wanted to be in the Dallas area because that's where my family was and that's where my fiance was at the time. So for me, a job offer in Garland was yes. So they offered and I said yes. I'm guessing they somehow got a hold of me because I was just putting my resume out anywhere that I could through all those job fairs.
What did you do at your first job?
So for Raytheon, my first job out of college, I had learned mostly Java at the University of Texas. I had had a couple of C++ classes. In high school, even I had one C++ class and one Java class. So what they wanted me to do was they had an application that had been written in C++, and all they wanted me to do was to rewrite it in Java. So it sounds a little bit like an easy project to start off with, but I did go through, at that point, the entire waterfall phase. So I had to sit down with my product owners and go through, this is what you have right now, and you say you want it written in Java, but we're going to go through the whole process of requirements and design, and then I'm going to make some things, and then I'm going to bring it back to you, and we're going to do code reviews, and I'm going to demo it to you and get feedback and have rework. And so it was really my first big project of taking existing code, figuring out how to rewrite it into Java, but also that interaction with the customer. Even though it was in-house customer, having those meetings and getting a real life project and a real life product that they were then able to use this new tool, did exactly the same thing it did before, but with it going from C++ to Java, then it opened it up to where they could add features and add enhancements. So it was going to be easier to add in Java going forward than it was in C++.
So how did that lead to the current job that you have now? What is your role at this point?
Excellent question. So now at BNSF, currently at BNSF, I am a senior project manager. When I left Raytheon, I was there for 4.5 years and I was a software developer. When I came to BNSF, I needed to move to Fort Worth, and I was looking for a software development job in Fort Worth. Again, putting my resume out on all different websites, just trying to find something in Fort Worth. BNSF contacted me, said, we found your resume, we'd like you to come. And I said, you're a train company. You know I code, right? You know I don't run trains. You know I'm not a mechanical engineer. I'm a software developer. And they say, yes, we know. We want you to come. So I interviewed. I found out they actually do need software developers. The technology services department here is hundreds of people. We do unimaginable things with software here at the railroad. So when I came and I started asking, what is my job here? What do I need to do? And didn't really get a lot of answers. I asked, well, the lady who had my job before me, what did she do? And didn't really get a lot of answers. So I just started doing the best that I could. As far as I had a team of developers that had been working on this product, and I had my customers, and the project was not being delivered because the customer would say, it doesn't do what I need to do, everything's wrong. And the developers were saying, we've done everything that they've asked us to do. And so really my job was to just work it out, get them on the right page, this has to be delivered, figure out what's wrong, and fix it. So I really became a mediator between our customer and our developers, trying to figure out when the customer says nothing works, what do you really mean? What is it that's broken? How can we get you from where you say nothing works to where we can deliver this product and close out the project? And I took my technical skill set from having been a developer, and I just started translating back and forth between what the customer needed and putting that in terms that the developers could understand, because they were not able to communicate well together. They were speaking different languages. So about 6 months into this, I found out I'm not a software developer anymore. I haven't touched code. I had become a Scrum Master without knowing what that was or what I was doing, just by trying to get the project delivered, because that's what I was told to do. So then I started actually doing training on Scrum Master. I started actually teaching people about Agile. And that first program that I worked on, and they said, well, what is Agile? I said, well, remember when I walked you through, tell me what you mean by, and you told me everything that was broken, and we broke that up into big chunks, and we fixed this thing and then showed you that was right, and then we fixed this thing and then showed you that was right. They said, yeah. I said, well, that was Agile. And now here's all the vocabulary that goes around what we've been doing the last 6 months. So now I've been at BNSF 7 years, and I have evolved that Scrum Master role, and I've gone, they always move me project to project. It's usually where the customers and the developers are not seeing eye to eye and they're not understanding. And so I come in and I help everybody figure out how to communicate to each other to get the product delivered. Technology services went through a big overhaul this past year, and we've taken all of our Scrum Masters and all of our project managers and centralized them into a department called Delivery Services. And now all of those people are getting very formal training on how to be a Scrum Master. Everybody's getting trained on how to be a Scrum Master and how to work in that Agile space. And everyone's getting trained on how to be a project manager and how to work in that space. And how do we take the tools from both of these disciplines to help with whatever type of software development project we need to work on.
You've started a family. You've learned to balance your work life with your not at work life. And all of a sudden, along comes COVID-19, and everything gets kind of combined all into one place. You know, work, home, you have to separate those things again in a different way. Can you talk some about how the experience of working at home all the time? I'm guessing that maybe you worked at home some prior to this, but now working at home with a child that's in school. What's that like for you?
So I will say the biggest strength that has carried my family through is absolutely my project management skills. And I told everyone when this first started, you know, pray for my kids because they've got a project manager mom and a teacher dad. So there was no breaks, there was no skipping a beat. Even when we thought this was only going to be 2 weeks long, I told my kids, you're not going to spend 2 weeks watching television. And, you know, I was at work on Monday, and Monday at 4 o'clock, they said you're working from home for the next 2 weeks. So Monday night, I went home and I looked on Pinterest and found out a homeschooling schedule and wrote it down and told my kids and told my husband, we're working on a schedule now. And from this time to this time is math, and this time to this time is reading. And we're going to post this up, and whatever is on there is what we're doing. Now we've had a lot of grace with that schedule. We are not strictly adhering to it, but it was a guideline to keep us on track. We still got up every morning. We watch TV, we eat breakfast, we hang around in our pajamas, And then at a certain time, it's time to get dressed, go for a walk, and then we're going to start our day. And anytime it was the kids were saying, well, what am I going to do now? Go look at the calendar. If you need something to do, if you can't entertain yourself, if you're not going to play right now, then go look at the calendar and what time is it. If it's reading time, then let's figure out something to do for reading. So that was really what helped keep us sane, especially in that early parts when we're trying to figure out what does this look like. I mentioned my husband's a teacher. And so every morning we both get up and we both pull out our phones, and he'd say, well, I have a meeting at 9 and 1. And I say, well, I have a meeting at 10 and 2. So at 9 o'clock, I'm in charge of keeping the kids quiet while he does his meeting. And at 10 o'clock, he's in charge of keeping the kids quiet while I do my meeting. And then another thing that has been a huge, huge point for my family in particular, from the time my kids were born, 1 to 3 is quiet time. If you are at home, if it's summer, if it's the weekend, if it's a holiday, if we are at home, 1 to 3 is quiet time. And you don't have to necessarily sleep, but you have to be in your room and you have to be quiet. And that's everything shuts down. We turn off all the lights. Everybody's in their own separate room. Even the dog gets put up. And our house shuts down 1 to 3 for quiet time. And so that's been a big help, because then when all this happens, it's like I need dedicated time for when I can do things that I need to do for work, and when my husband can do things for work. Then that was not new for my kids. It was just, oh, it's quiet time and I have to go to my room and I have to be quiet because mommy and daddy are busy.
Okay, it's not quiet time for mom and dad, just the kids.
Well, it's still quiet time. We still have to go to our rooms, and we have to be in our room and we have to be quiet, but we may be having a phone call or getting some reports done or grading papers.
I'm interrupting your quiet time right now.
Well, and that's what this is for. This is my time where kids have to be away and I get to focus on what it is I need to do for my job that day.
That's wonderful. Y'all sound very organized about it. I know it's difficult for a lot of people to wrap their heads around, how everything's going to happen at home. So those are some great ideas that, since we're staying home longer, maybe some of us can incorporate those ideas if we haven't already. I'm wondering, Jennifer, if you have any advice for these high school students that are getting ready to either start their last year of high school, some of them just finished high school. What kind of things might you say to them as they move forward?
So it's weird. If it feels weird, it's okay, because it's weird. It's weird for everybody. So understand that you're not alone. Understand that it's not only weird for you, that it is weird for everyone. Don't feel like all the adults have it figured out and it's only weird because you're in high school and you don't know. We're all just trying to figure this out. So take that as comfort. It's okay if you haven't figured it out. So for the ones that are going into their senior year, nobody knows what your senior year is going to look like in the fall. Even the teachers and even the parents, we're getting all these surveys about, well, what are you comfortable with? Would you want it to look normal? Do you want it to look altered? Do you want 4 weeks of school and 2 weeks off? Do we want half the capacity? So do we want our kids to go in the mornings and then the other half of the kids go in the afternoon? Or would you prefer half the kids go Monday, Tuesday, and half the kids go Wednesday, Thursday? And I'm just sitting there like, I just want it to be normal. Is that an option?
Right.
But we don't know. And so whatever the fall looks like, we're all just gonna figure it out. And that's one of the things that I've really appreciated about BNSF is they are letting us work from home, and they are very open about we're all just trying to figure this out. So one day at a time. Definitely one of the things I would encourage to help get through is figure out what you want to do and set goals, and don't let this be a pause. Like I told my kids, we're not going to watch TV for 2 weeks and then get back into life later. We're going to keep living life now. And so we're going to be very intentional every week and every day about what is it we're doing today. And sometimes our intentional is, today we're taking a break. Today we're just blowing everything off and we're going to sit in our pajamas and we're going to watch TV. But we're intentional about deciding today is the day we're going to take a break. And tomorrow we're going to get back up and we're going to do some work again. And we're going to be humans and get dressed and do what we need to do. So decide what you want to do during this time, whether it's you want to do some online courses or just being curious. You don't necessarily have to enroll in a course and then do this assignment and this assignment and this assignment and get the check mark at the end. If that's what motivates you, some people are like that. I'm like that. I like getting the check mark at the end that says you finished the course. But if you're not that way, just explore and be curious and do a Google search on something that you're interested in. Watch a video about Java programming, or just start getting into what you're interested with and keep exploring and keep your mind curious and open, because we don't know how long this is going to be. And so if we assume that it's only a couple of weeks and we're going to pause for a couple of weeks and then we'll get back to life later, what if this is 2 months, or what if this is 6 months and you wake up and you're like, oh man, I thought this was only going to be a couple of weeks and it actually ended up 6 months, and now I've wasted 6 months of opportunity. So those would be my encouragements of have grace with yourself, set goals and do something for your goals, and just understand that we're all just trying to figure it out as we go. So you're not alone.
Well, Jen, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule today from both your family and your work. And it's so amazing for me to see how you've grown over the years. So I'm really enjoying having this conversation with you and listening to your great advice. So take care of your family and yourself, and we'll hopefully see you in person next summer.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I look forward to it.